Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast, the Vibes That Alma Podcast, here with your hostess, Ashley. Here, I'm super excited to talk with Mickey Malcolm. She's an amazing medium and healer, and she shares about how education is our liberation, right? Like learning about religion, learning about our practices, learning about our ancestry, and how that really sheds the light into how some things have been silenced on purpose that are there to empower us and give us the power that we truly have within, right? So we do talk about religion, talk about history, and today, when this episode is released, it is Juneteenth. So I'm really grateful that I was able to sit with Mickey Malcolm during this episode for it to be broadcasted today on Juneteenth, because we need more of these voices out there that really do shed the light into what the greater media has been trying to hide, right? So I'm glad that we're here today. I'm glad that you guys get to listen to her beautiful wisdom, and I hope that you all come out of here really knowing how to better connect with your ancestors and how to discern what is for you and what is for them. So without further ado, let's get into the podcast, y'all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. In this episode, we have Mickey, the owner and founder of Mystik Maven Co. So, Mystik Maven Co. is an apothecary that highlights the uniqueness of nature for our overall well being. Incorporating traditional herbs and spiritual practices from her home in Jamaica, Mickey blends all of her products with great care and intention. Also, as an amazing and super talented psychic and medium, Mickey is a bridge between the human world and the spirit world to help guide individuals into a better path for themselves in accordance to their living values. And yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So the first question that I usually ask everyone when they come on is, how did you get started on your personal spiritual journey?
Okay, so my personal and spiritual journey started with one question. I remember, I think it was 2018, 2019. I remember saying to Spirit, I didn't know it was Spirit, I just said it out loud. I want to learn more about my Jamaican heritage. And I kept
Mm,
saying it over and over and over. I was looking for books. Um, I would watch a bunch of videos on YouTube learning about the country, how it all started, and that was the spark. For me, knowledge is important. Um, the Christian Bible says, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge," and I find that to be true. We can perish emotionally because we don't have enough knowledge. We can perish spiritually because we don't have the knowledge. And I want to grow, add to society, and be who I'm meant to be. So I need, for me, adding to my knowledge bank was imperative. So the more I began to learn about my homeland, I was in a position where I'm like, oh, wow, my hands are open. I'm receiving, I'm receiving, but I have stuff in my other hand. I have to put that down in order to receive more. So that is the process of learning and unlearning. And boy, it was not fun. It was not easy. And it was very isolating and lonely because everyone, or the people that I call my friends and my family, my community, at the time, they were okay with the status quo.
mm.
So I had to go on that journey by myself. And that's how it started for me.
Oh, because
It
you
was
wanted to learn
scary,
more. Yeah.
all because I wanted to learn more. The universe has a pretty funny, I think it's funny, a funny way of giving you what you ask for, not necessarily the way you anticipated. It's like if you want a new car, right? You say to the universe, oh, it's hot. I don't want to have to worry about pulling over on the side of the road to make sure I put water where the coolant's supposed to be. I want a new car. I want a new car. I'm manifesting a new car. Spirit, it's funny. They may say, oh, bet, you're going to get that new car. You're driving one day, you're following the rules. Boom, car accident. You're healthy, not a scratch, but the car is totaled.
Mm-hmm.
You submit it to the insurance company. They say, oh, yeah, there's nothing we can do. We can't salvage this. Here's 35 grand. Go get a new car. You got a new car. Aren't you going to give thanks? You asked for a new car, but Spirit will show you, we'll give you what you asked for, but you can't tell us how we're going to give it to you. So it started with me wanting to learn.
And then that just sent you on an avenue of this new path that you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just because you wanted to learn more about your heritage, your Jamaican heritage, in a way, I take that as you were also trying to connect with your ancestry.
Yes. 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 Um, Living here in the States, I know just about everything about American history.
Mm.
I know just enough because I'm constantly learning about African American history, but I didn't know anything about my own. And I was always under the assumption, oh, we were brought here. Here is in Jamaica. We were brought here as slaves, and we toiled the land, and we fought, and here we are. We're free. No, that's not how it happened. And learning history is so important. Um, Professor James Small says, when you learn your history, you unveil the white man's mysteries.
I just got chills.
When you learn your history, you unveil the white man's mysteries. How often are we told one narrative? History is told by those who conquered. So if we're playing some one,
Some
two, three,
wrestling.
four, yes, some wrestling. If we're playing, right? And I beat you, whether I cheated, I kicked you in your knee and distracted you, and I held your thumb down, I won. It doesn't matter what I did. I won. I can say, oh, she came in, her palms are all sweaty. Ugh, I beat her fair and square. But that's not the truth. And that voice is louder and louder and louder. And people want to believe what they want to believe. Learning your history is key. At least it was for me.
Yeah, and that's a very good segue to also one of the intentions for this conversation, right? In this podcast conversation, because this is going to be released on June 19th, which is Juneteenth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I first stumbled upon you at Spiral Circle in downtown Orlando when you were giving a history of Black spirituality class, and that was by pure
Yes.
accident because I came in late. Um,
But right on time.
right on time for me because I got
Yes.
literally what I wanted. See, I got what I wanted, what I was asking for, and it just
Yes.
came. So, okay, I guess I'll diverge and tell the story. So, I went into the class thinking that your class was over and the new class that was coming after your class started. The new class was the history of African hair, right? And talking
Mm-hmm.
about like the history of hair, how it used to be, how it diverged now, and how we're trying to bring it back. Um, and I'm saying we because I have a best friend who's always said like that I mean, right now my curls are pretty chill,
Mm-hmm.
but she's the one that taught me about how to take care of my curls, and she's Black, right? And I lived in a predominantly like white neighborhood, and I'm Hispanic, so I'm like I don't fit in with either crowd, I guess, if you want to like call it that way or see it that way. And with her helping me, her giving me her products, her giving me her S-Girl that helped really hydrate my hair, her castor oil, her coconut oil was like, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that. I was like, oh my God, yes, this is what I need. Anyways, all that to say, I wanted to get to that class, but then I stumbled upon your class because you went a little bit later, you started a little bit later. Does it really matter? The point is, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I want, and I am wanting to learn more about my spiritual roots because what I read about Puerto Rican spirituality is not what I have envisioned my great grandmother doing, right? Like I keep getting different information from outside sources, but it's not what she tells me now, like as a passed on spirit, like what she tells me that she did, and like it just hasn't matched. And then you finally put a word to what she might have been doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just sat in the part where you were talking about the different types of spiritual practices that
Mm-hmm.
are really rooted in African spirituality, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I stumbled upon you. And you're an amazing psychic. You're very talented.
Thank
And
you.
I was just like, I want to talk to you for this episode.
And I want to be talked to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you said that you know a little bit about African history because you're
Mhm.
continuing to learn and expand on that knowledge. But I guess how did learning more about your ancestors, learning more about your roots, and learning more about Black history help you evolve spiritually with your practices and your rituals that you do?
Mhm. Um, my spiritual mentor, she'll say ancestors first. They come first, always. And also in various African spiritual traditions, they will say ancestors first. Your egun come first. For me, when I put it out there that I wanted to learn more about my African or my Jamaican ancestry, I was led down the path where I had to work on my mental health because we we live our lives and it's governed by what we believe. Um, if I believe that I'm constantly persecuted, I'm constantly the black sheep, I'm going to walk that way. I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder. Now, granted, that may be true, but let's just say that's what I believe perpetually. I'm not living free. So if that's where I am and I'm down here and spirit is calling me to elevate here because they are up here and they're trying to send something to me, it's not going to reach. So I needed to work on my mental health first. So that was my foundation. Once I started working on my mental health, I was able to, with the help of my therapist, re reconfigure my paradigm, like my belief processes. Um, I no longer believe in Jesus Christ as the way a Christian would. Why? Because not because believe, because I learned history. Who was Jesus? Where did the concept of Jesus come from? Or is it just a Christ consciousness that we should be talking about? Who was Horus? Who was Aset? Who was Heru? Where did this come from? When I started learning about my people, I became curious. Okay, so they were from Africa. Let's talk about the African ancestry. They were from Africa. Okay, so logically, what did they do? What did they eat? What did they do for fun before the transatlantic slave trade? What did they do for fun? What was the family structure like? Were they praying to Jesus? Why didn't Jesus deliver them? What's going on? I start to ask these questions, right? And then the more history I learned, it began to answer those questions that I had in conjunction with working on myself, working on that church hurt, because I grew up in the church, Pentecostal through and through. Okay. There was never a better Christian than me. Okay. In in high school, in high school, I was in junior and senior year, I was the vice president of the Bible club. I would preach on Sunday morning services at my local church here. I was a youth leader. I was the praise dance leader. And I could go on and on and on. So you couldn't tell me nothing. So imagine that person unlearning
Mm-hmm.
all of that. I'm so grateful that I did, but it was difficult. So my where my journey has morphed into, I had to unlearn all of that and create a new foundation. And for me, it's based on history and knowledge
Yeah.
and science. You can't deny it. Wash your hands. There are germs. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, COVID happened. Hello. What are we
Yeah.
talking about? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm getting off track. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I mean, talking about science, that's a good way um to also bring that into the conversation
Yes,
because I personally believe that science is just spiritual things that have been able to be proven as fact, right?
yes,
That we have the technology to prove these metaphysical things that are happening in the quantum realm and whatever world that you want to perceive, right? But we have the technology to say, yes, this is true. Because, gravity wasn't a thing until someone put a name to it. And it was a thing, it
right.
was always a thing, but gravity wasn't known.
Mm-hmm.
And the mystery behind why do things fall to the ground was as metaphysical as right now, how can meditation help you be more enlightened? But now we
Mm-hmm.
know gravity as something that's scientific because we have the technology to prove it, that it's fact. We don't have the technology just yet to prove that meditation can help with enlightenment. We will eventually, though.
Right.
But
And it has been proven.
mm,
So in my learning, like the Dogon people, they were able to map the stars.
mhm.
And then scientists are now discovering, oh, wow, they did it way back then. It's so, I cannot stress enough how important it is. Education is important and learning your history. If you learn nothing, history, history, or her story is so important because it will really change the trajectory of your life. There's nothing new under the sun. Our people have been alchemists since the very beginning of time. Like they didn't see a divide. It just was. There wasn't a divide between the spirit realm and the physical realm. They understood that they just flowed,
Mhm.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the thing that you just said about how there's nothing new under the sun because there really isn't. Yeah, there's new houses, but the material that was used for the houses has existed on Earth forever.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're drinking water, and the water that we're drinking now is the same water that's been on this Earth forever.
Yeah.
So, how do we find better resources to continue learning about our history, our ancestors, her story? What is her story actually? Let's expand a little bit about that.
Um, right now we are under the rule of patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, it was matriarchy. History is told by the conqueror.
Mm.
That's why it's called his story.
Oh, that just clicked for me. Okay, okay, I see.
Yeah. Um, there's a book by Mama Zogbe. I I have it somewhere in here. I'll share it with you later. You can put it
Mm.
in the show notes. Um, what is it called? Oh, the Sybils.
I like see the
It's not,
title in my head.
yeah, it's not a hard read. You can get through it in a day, but it is full with information, with history. And I had to put it down for a moment because it made sense. Like reading it, it's like 2 + 2 = 4. Duh. But when you add one more, it's 5. That's how it was. It's like, are you serious? Like, this cannot be true. Like learning, like the different synchronicities, like why the Pope, why their, I don't know the proper term, why their hat, it looks like this. It's a fish. Why, um, why they walk around with the incense, like
Mm-hmm.
smudging the space. What does that have to do with Christianity? Because if we're reading the Bible, Jesus, the Old and the New Testament, they're not talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're really moving forward, Jesus came and paid it all. So we don't need to do what we used to do in the Old Testament. So please tell me, help me understand, why are we still doing that? Questioning things, reading. So the Bible talks about studying to show yourself approved, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Okay. When we read, critically read, have these critical conversations, sharing, learning, unlearning, processing, it will really expand your mind. Mama Zogbe talks about the ancient Sybils, and they were oracles, and the oracles of Delphi.
Mm-hmm.
You would go to them, men, women alike. They would go to them and they would prophesy or tell them of their future. Kings and queens, they would go to them. Should I do this? Should I do that? This is what's happening. What can you see? And there came a time where they were hunted and their lives were ended, and some of them went into hiding. And just like our indigenous and African ancestors, they had to hide their they had to hide their power. They had to hide everything that was a part of them just to survive, just to live, because patriarchy wanted to rule. And I can't rule if you're in power, if everyone's coming to you, looking to you for guidance. How am I supposed to puff out my chest and I'm the conqueror, but you're still here? I got to get rid of you. The book goes on, and it gives more information, but it's a great read.
Yeah. I'll definitely
It's a
have
great
it
read.
in the show notes for people to know the title and the author and stuff.
Yeah. Another another source. I personally, for anyone that grew up in any of the Abrahamic traditions, whether you're Christian, Baptist, Pentecostal, Seventh Day, if you're struggling to come from that into not necessarily a spiritual tradition, but just to be free of being in a box, I would recommend listening to Dr. Ray Hagins. He can be found on YouTube, and he has some older videos. Um, I like to listen to Professor James Small. I also like to listen to the Queen Poe. She's on Instagram as well. And my spiritual mentor, her name is Adunola. And on Instagram and YouTube, she's Adunola the Oracle. They provide great resources. And what I like about each of them, they'll give you the information and also give you the opportunity to go seek information for yourself. Long gone are the days where you just get something, take it, and run with it. No, you have to study to show yourself approved. Go out and prove whether or not they're saying is correct or not. because this is your life and you'll be held accountable, whether you do or you don't. Yeah.
Now we're in a world where we're gonna have to start. There's no if, ands, and buts about it anymore. Like you have to start researching the content that you're receiving, because is it real? Is it not? Like you don't know unless you try to find the root source.
Correct.
And those are really good things to also look into when it comes to your spiritual practice, because there are a lot of people that are Catholic or Christian out there that whenever they're colonized, that's like usually it's colonized by some country that had that adopted into themselves as well, right? So whenever a new country is colonized by whoever came before them, they're usually Christian or usually under the Catholic influence. Because yes, even though like Catholicism and Christianity, they come from Rome and Spain or whatever, like they were colonized too, right? Like there used to be indigenous people that lived there, right? Like the
Right.
Greek and ancient Greece, the Romans had a Roman pagan religion that they believed in before it was Roman Catholic religion, so on and so forth. So, like, a lot of people come from that Christian background because Christianity was that colonized religion that was adopted onto new people, right? Which is why there's so many similarities between Christianity and indigenous belief systems or pagan belief systems.
Can we
Because,
talk about that?
yes, ma'am, go ahead, take it away.
I love that you said that. Yes, there are so many similarities. Um, what's his name? I think it's called Ori Ire on Instagram. And he, like, the different reels, he'll talk about how African spirituality is demonized by Christianity and Christians. And they say it's evil, it's wicked, it's all these things. Have you ever been to church, like a Christian church before or a Black church before? Have
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Okay. Are you familiar with people getting in the spirit where they're shouting and dancing and speaking in tongues? Have you seen that?
I have seen that, yes.
Okay. You'd be surprised to know those same Christians that are demonizing these ancient indigenous African spiritual practices, it's in your genes and you're just doing what they did. It's the same thing. When you go to a bembe or an orisha drumming, someone is mounted and the orisha is moving through them, right? Or it could be at a misa and an ancestor mounts them and they're singing or they're dancing or they're moving. The same thing can be seen on a Sunday morning 11 a.m. service. It's the same thing. The same thing. You talked about colonization, and what I find funny is that Christianity, and this may be controversial, but it's true because it's important to learn your history so you can unveil the white man's mysteries. I can only speak about Christianity because that was my upbringing. Christianity, it is stolen from ancient indigenous people. They stole our history, they stole our spiritual practices, they stole our traditions, they copied it, repackaged it, and presented it out to the masses. It's fake Louis Vuitton. It's fake Gucci. The quality, I mean, it's a purse. You can put things in there. It'll get you from point A to point B. It'll match your outfit, but it's a fake. That's not cute. It's a fake. Even when our ancestors, when we were enslaved here in the States and in the islands and all over the planet, really, when they would force Christianity on us, force Jesus on us, in order to survive and to thrive, we had to assimilate. We had to. You didn't want your child to be ripped away from you. because you wouldn't bow down to their God. You wouldn't submit. You weren't subservient to them. You had to do what they did so that you can live. What they did was they hid it. That's where you have the synchronization. So you'll see a lot of Cubans and Puerto Ricans and whomever, different people on the islands say, oh, yes, I'm a Catholic, but they associate the saint with an Orisha.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a friend of mine and it just kept like pushing at me. And I said to her, so you're from Cuba, right? Yeah, my mom's from Cuba, my dad. I'm like, okay. And I was like, are they like Lukumi practitioners? And she's like, no, they're not a part of that. I'm like, Santeria? No. Mm-mm. I was like, huh, that's strange because spirit is telling me something else, and spirit doesn't lie. Spirit is telling me something else, but you're saying something different. I'm like, okay. So I asked her, oh, did your mom have an altar? No, she just lit like candles and she had a saint there, and that was the only saint that she would pray to. And I was like, okay. And Spirit kept saying, no, baby, there's more. There's more. Fast forward, we're sitting and we're working. She's on her computer, I'm on my computer, and we're just talking. And she brings it up again. And I was like, are you sure your mom wasn't dibbling and dabbling in anything? And she said, no. And I was like, got it. I went on Pinterest and I typed in bóveda, pulled it up, or the Mesa Blanca, pulled it up, and I said, this is what I'm talking about. She's like, oh my God, my mom had that in her house. And I was like, thank you. I'm not crazy. Thank you, Spirit. I heard correctly. In order for them to practice openly, they had to hide what they were doing. That's how you have in Trinidad and other Caribbean islands, they call it not the Baha'i faith, but the Baptists. So they would, like, if you were to go to church now, like any mega church, you're dressed nice and cool, but their head is wrapped like this. They're wearing traditional clothes and they're getting in the spirit. It's
Well,
all ancestor veneration. That's all they're doing,
yeah.
but they needed to do it freely.
I would like to add to that too, because like when I went to church in Puerto Rico, even though it was a Catholic church, all of the women had a wrap around their head, and
Mm-hmm.
you had to put it on when you were in church. All the
Mm-hmm.
women had a fan with them. I don't know, I just got a lot of fans. And if it wasn't a wrap around their head, it was a little hat.
Mm-hmm.
So like they had a head covering that was more quote unquote appropriate, right, than what it
Mm-hmm.
used to be. But those similar practices still play a part from when I was a kid, right? Like that wasn't that long ago.
Right, right. And you know how, like, the older folks still say, like, when a little kid is around, they've been here before. They've been here before. Oh, they act so grown. Why do they act so grown? Because they're just an ancestor returned. So
Mhm.
all these things that we're doing, we pass it down from generation to generation. Well, why do when I when I was growing up, when we were coming in the house late at night, they would say when you're coming in, don't just walk in. You have to turn around and walk into the house backwards. And I just did as I was told. But as I got older, I'm putting two and two together. I'm like, wait a minute. You're a leader in the praise and worship team. You believe in Jesus Christ. Where in the Bible does it say that you should do this, 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 and this? It doesn't say that. If Christ is so powerful, anything can come my way and he's going to fight my battles for me. I have nothing to worry about. So, what is this? Oh, it's superstition?
Mm.
Oh, it's what our ancestors did, and it's just passed down. It's just passed down. I find it funny how, for my people, they will say, "Oh, I don't practice Obeah. Me no practice Obeah. Bad mind for them." Saying Obeah is to hoodoo what it is here in the States. Are you familiar with hoodoo?
More so, yeah.
Okay. So imagine hoodoo, put it on the islands.
Mm.
Even me saying I'm always so afraid to say Obeah because it is heavily demonized. When I was talking at the Black History Summit at Spiral Circle, I asked a question, how many of you have tarot cards, oracle cards? How many of you collect moon water? How many of you use a pendulum, runes? And people, oh, yeah, I dabble. And I was like, okay. Do you know that today, 2024, if you were to do that openly in Jamaica, it's illegal. You can go to jail. It is illegal.
Wow.
Just as illegal as smoking marijuana, drinking and driving. It's illegal. Why is it illegal? It is illegal, and this was from the 1800s that this went into effect, and it has not been repealed. 2024, hundreds of years have passed, and it's still in effect. And that encourages me to know, okay, if they're real, why are they trying to suppress it? Because it has power.
Mm-hmm.
It has power. They Our ancestors, we've always known, we know the land, whether it was on the motherland, the continent, or the various islands that we were dropped off on or we came from. We use herbs to heal our body. We use roots, plants, fruits, vegetables to heal and nourish the body. As above, so below, right? There's light and dark, if you want to call it that. So we were able to tap in and get what we needed to get to keep the oppressor from harming us, from physically harming us, sexually harming us, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it worked. It worked. And they didn't want that to continue. So they had to put it in law, put it in writing that it is illegal and punishable by death. I think of Taki's the rebellion of Taki in Jamaica. I think of the Haitian Revolution with Dutty Boukman. I think of how they persevered, and it is said that the night before the revolution that happened in Haiti, they had a community session, a misa, um, a ritual that took place, and they appeased their ancestors and their spirits and asked them to give them power to persevere and to gain the victory over their oppressor. And they won. Haiti was the first island in the Caribbean to gain its independence. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Vodun is demonized. When we think about it, voodoo, Vodun, Haiti. Oh, it's wicked, it's evil. Why? Why is it evil?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Learning your history. When you learn your history, you unveil the white man's mysteries. They want you to believe this narrative that this spiritual tradition, I won't use religion because that is man made. Christianity's a religion. Different spiritual practices and traditions is that, not a religion. They want us to believe that these spiritual traditions that's indigenous to us is wicked and evil and demonic when it's not, because it connects us to our higher self. It connects us to our ancestors, and they empower us and give us everything that we need to live a victorious, prosperous, abundant and pleasant life. And they don't want us to have that, because if we have that, they, for some reason, think that they can't have it as well. When nature says that we can all exist, we can all coexist. The planet is vast. There's so much, but we have this mentality that there's not enough. And that's why, for a myriad of other reasons, why there are wars, people are constantly fighting. It's just chaos, and it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
Yeah, and going back to Christianity being a man-made religion and how that is merged with other practices. Like if you're curious or you're questioning, right? Someone listening, because this just came earlier. What we were talking about this earlier. Like if you're questioning, well, if Christianity is a man-made thing, right? And it's like adopting spiritual practices, then what was Jesus talking about? And to that question, I would kind of challenge you to be like, why don't you find out for yourself? What was
Right.
Jesus talking about? What was his message? What was he doing? What made him get killed? So we don't talk about that enough. It wasn't just the fact
No.
that he's dying here for our sins. No. There's more to the story. There's
Right.
political things that were happening that got him to get killed and crucified, plus other things as well. So if you're wondering yourself, like, if Christianity was man-made and it adopted all these different spiritual practices from the places it colonized, what was Jesus talking about? You should read the Bible from beginning to end. Read history on Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
There is information of those 40 years that he went missing, quote unquote, missing.
Mm-hmm.
There is information out there. You just have to go out of your way to find it, because in so-called United States, right now, if you're here, right, this is a Christian country. You're gonna
Yes.
find a bunch of Christian things. So just putting that out there. Also, it's funny how, well, it's not really funny, but all of these different like deities that are indigenous are demonized, right? But
Mm-hmm.
yet we can think about Zeus or like, the god of war, and it's like they're not demonized yet. In almost every single one of their stories, what they're doing is they are oppressing, especially women. They are doing horrible things to people. They are messing with people. They are conquering. And it's like, that's not demonized, even though it's not right. It's not morally right in any way, shape, or form, but they're not demonized. Yet a deity that we can pray to that will empower us is
Mm-hmm.
demonized.
Mm. They want all the power to come from them. They want to be your everything, your source. They don't want you to go to a source that is nutrient rich. They want to give you the synthetic
Mm.
things to keep you docile. Mm.
Okay.
You mentioned Zeus and Aphrodite and Athena and all these other um, deities. When you said, "Oh, who is it? Is it Shango? Hold on. Who is it with the hammer?
That is,
Is that
oh my God, I
Thor?
just thought of Thor. Yeah.
Thor." I looked somewhere and I was like, wow, it's so funny how whitewashed they are. As I was learning about the Moors, and I'm still learning, it's so, I feel like sometimes like I just have to take a break
Yeah.
because it's just shifting everything I've been told was a lie. Everything. So I'm trying to take pieces out and find the truth or fact and plug it in, and then okay, what's next? It's it's mind-boggling. Whenever I think of Thor, I think of Shango, the Orisha Shango. When I think of Aphrodite, I
Mm-hmm.
think of Oshun. She's the Orisha of sweet water and sensuality and success and money and fertility and all of that. You know, for Black and Indigenous people, going back to the foundation of things, putting everything that you've learned to the side and go back to the beginning, your foundation, and learn as a baby. Learn, and then put it before you and then compare the two and see where they overlap and
Mm-hmm.
see where your information was stolen. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
And to add to that too, with Aphrodite and Oshun, like they're called the Queen of Heaven. Who else is called the Queen of Heaven? Venus,
Mm-hmm.
Ishtar, Mother Mary,
Mm-hmm.
by the way. Like, and these are people that I've like read into that don't quote me, but they might be the same person. I don't know. Don't quote me, but maybe. If you read your history.
Come on. Come on, sis. Come on.
They're all the Queen of Heaven, okay? They're the same
Yes.
person.
Yes. Yeah. It's all one and the same. Mm.
Mhm. So, what suggestions do you have for someone to tap into more of their roots?
I will say start with your ancestors first. And when connecting to your ancestors, do what is culturally relevant to you. I was talking to someone, I had a friend slash client that I was speaking with a few weeks ago. And in our session, their ancestors came forward and said, we want you to connect with us as you want to connect with us, but we want you to do what's true for
Mm,
us. So we're okay with you practicing yoga and doing all of that. It nourishes you. Do that. We're not here for that. So look into pagan practices. And all pagan really means is a religion or a practice or a spiritual tradition that is other than Christianity,
hmm.
which is etymology is important too.
Yeah.
A lot of learning, knowledge built on that foundation. Um, when connecting to your ancestors, do what is culturally relevant. So if one of the listeners, if they're Black, African American, or from the diaspora, and you're setting up an altar, what you're putting on that altar is what is native to your people. So if you don't have any Asian ancestors that you are aware of, if they have not come forward and made themselves known to you, I would not be putting anything Asian on my altar. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Um, I would, I play music that my ancestors like. Um, I'm a Christmas fanatic. So if I'm feeling sad, I'll put on a Christmas movie. It was thunderstorming yesterday, and I was like, oh, I feel scared. Let me watch a Christmas movie. I'm silly. But when I first started out on my journey and to like set the mood, I would play jazz or meditation music, and I was growing. They would allow it, and as I began to grow and develop in my mediumship, when I would play it, they tell me, I don't want to hear that. That's for you. You can listen to that, but we don't want that. Um, I was doing a session with someone before this, and I was getting ready. I had my candle lit. I had my goblet of water that's still here. Do you see the bubbles? Whenever you
Yeah.
see bubbles, it just shows that spirit is here.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes. So I had my goblet of water and I was playing some reggae, jazz music. And they said, turn that off. I don't want to hear none of that. No, that's not it. Turn it off. And I was like, oh, okay. Change. And I was like, well, what do you want to listen to? They wanted some gospel music.
Mm.
I'm not with it, but that's what they want. If I'm trying to appease you and get you to do something for me, not in a manipulative way, but I'm trying to pay homage to you. Let's say you love red roses. Why am I going to bring you some daisies? That's not what you want. You didn't ask for that. Who's that for me or for you? Because that's not doing anything for me. So give your ancestors what they want, even if it does not make sense to you. So I sing some hymns, I sing some gospel songs, and I give them what they want. I'm not doing it for hours on end. I'll give them my ashe, and they're satisfied, and we keep it pushing. And I find that once it's reciprocity, once I give, the air is light and it's just flowing. It's only when I'm trying to be in control, when ego is here wanting to lead and manage everything, that things don't work the way they're supposed to. That's what I find.
I like that, and the fact that you can learn to discern what practices are good for you, right? And like your wellness and how to nourish yourself versus what practices are good for you to connect further with your ancestry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Well, we're coming to the end of this episode. So is there anything else that you would like to share regarding connecting with your ancestry or just building on a personal spiritual practice?
Everything that you need is within you. Sometimes the prescription that is needed can be found in nature when developing your spiritual abilities or creating a foundation with your ancestors or with yourself, a sacred practice. You're not always going to find it in a metaphysical shop. It's not going to be ready made. You're not going to find it in a botanica. You're just not. It's going to call for you to pause, take a beat, and just sit and be and listen. And whenever you're able to, get under the tutelage of an elder, honoring your elders, listening to your elders, and trusting your gut so that you're guided to the correct person is very important. Because although we're spiritual, there are people that don't mean us well. And trusting yourself, trusting your gut, your intuition will protect you from people who want to take something from you. So I say start with your ancestors first. And if you're able to, I always suggest therapy. I know it's not always accessible, but if you have the means, I would definitely recommend it. It has helped me tremendously on my journey, and I will always recommend therapy.
Yeah, and I second that as well. You know, like when we're trying to find wellness and harmony in our body, like we can't pretend that we can solve it on our own, and having a professional there standing with us to help us recalibrate just our mental health and nervous system is priceless. Like that is what you need.
Yeah,
So yes, definitely to therapy. It's definitely on demand.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for
And
having me.
of course, of course. And I hope that everyone here has received beautiful gems from this conversation and that they are more empowered, right, to discern themselves, that personal practice with their spirituality.
Shame.
That was such a great episode. And again, just like how we left it off, therapy, professional help is super important to calibrate our nervous system. Sometimes we try to get into spiritual practices because we just want that reset, right? Now, there are a lot of resources in the show notes of different books and different people that Miki talked about during the episode. So make sure to look at those in the show notes below. Make sure that you like and you subscribe. That way you can be in the lookout for the following episodes here on this YouTube channel. And I hope that you got amazing information on how to really discern what's for you, what's for your ancestors, and how to truly connect to your roots. Until next time, y'all.